acculturation here, just to show you that we, measured different, we asked different questions to really understand this concept of acculturation. We asked about how long someone has lived in the US, because we know the longer you live, you may adopt more American beliefs as well as lifestyle behaviors. We asked about English language proficiency, what foods people ate at home or outside the home, the frequency of social, cultural, religious engagements, frequency of shopping at South Asian markets, and the race ethnicity of people's friends. And also we developed a scale called a traditional cultural belief scale to ask how much people would want certain cultural beliefs to be transmitted to future generations here in the United States. And we looked at all of these items together to look at whether there was any influence of acculturation on hardening of the arteries. So on the right here, I'm showing you a picture of the carotid wall thickness. So that's the big artery here in the neck. And what we're measuring is the thickness of the wall from this pink line to this blue line. And this is the near wall that's right below the skin, and this is the far wall on the other side of the artery, and this black area is actually the artery, the inside of the artery. And this is an ultrasound that we did, a painless, non-invasive test we did at the first visit. And what we looked at was this traditional cultural belief scale, and whether there was an association with how people believed, how strong their cultural beliefs were, and carotid artery thickness. And what we found was that people who had moderate beliefs in retaining their cultural traditions from back home here in the United States, those people had the thinner arteries, whereas people with strong beliefs had much thicker artery walls. And this is after we adjusted for all other risk factors. So what does this mean? That people who may be a little bit more bicultural in adopting some traditions here in the United States, as well as retaining some traditions from the sending country or culture, those people who were bicultural seem to have less thickening of their artery, and a thicker artery wall is associated with higher risk of stroke. So having thinner arterial wall thickness here is beneficial. So when we look at these acculturation measures, the 10 different measures I showed you that we collected, we were able to categorize people into 3 buckets. One was to look at how South Asian people believe, or how American their beliefs are. So you can see the people on the far left of this Venn diagram in the orange were very South Asian in their beliefs. And only about 23% of our whole study population really strongly retain their South Asian beliefs. And that's called a separation class, because they haven't really adopted much of any US beliefs in their acculturation measures. People in the middle are in that bicultural range where they've adopted some American beliefs and lifestyle behaviors, whereas they've retained some from their sending country. And that's called the integration class. And about 54% of our study population were in this integration class. And then another quarter were in the assimilation class, where they had adopted, they were more likely to have American beliefs and values rather than South Asian. So they were in the purple over here. So another quarter, so almost the same proportion were in the separation class as the assimilation class. So why am I bothering to tell you all of this? That's because we found some very interesting differences in how people acculturate. People who retained almost all of their South Asian beliefs were more depressed. They had more depressive symptoms, and that makes sense to me, and this has been seen in other cultures where you don't fit into the host culture, you feel like you're separated from it, you could be feeling more isolated and alone and possibly more depressed. So we did find higher depression symptoms in that group. And when we looked at cardiometabolic risk, so this is all of these risk factors like overweight, diabetes, high blood pressure, atherosclerosis, we found that people who were in the integration or assimilation class actually had lower risk factors. So something about, again, being bicultural or even adopting more Western American beliefs was associated with better